Hey y'all, happy fall! It's Gina. Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to do our second part of the new block party that we have started. So I have joined some of my friends and we have created a new Facebook group called the Block of Friends. So I would love for you to join. It's a private group and we are going to dedicate the entire group to fun and friends and sewing. But I think the main thing that I want to do is I want to create an atmosphere that we can find different fabrics and different patterns and different things from all over and share what we're doing where there aren't a lot of rules. So I don't really like a lot of rules. So I love to find free patterns or pieces of patterns that I already own and kind of mix them with some of my ideas that I have. And so my little brain up here is always turning and I'm always trying to think of things. Well, actually, I'm not trying to think. I'm trying to I have plenty of things going on up here. I'm always thinking of different ideas and I wish I had more time. But this time I had to just stop, and so I love turkeys. I love fall and I love to make fall stuff. And so I was looking to see if I could find a free turkey pattern because I didn't want to design a turkey pattern because I don't really like to do that. I'm capable of it, I just don't really enjoy it. So I would much rather leave it up to people like Lori Holt who do wonderful jobs designing them. And so I found this awesome free pattern that Lori Holt designed. It's a turkey, y'all. It's so cute. And so I wanted to take this pattern. So this is a free blog post on Lori Holt's website. So you can make this turkey with the free blog, and I'll link that down below. And then while I was reading her turkey blog, I realized that she also had some free little maple leaves in a different blog. So I made those, and I'll also link that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the turkey and I'm going to turn him into a pillow. We're going to put the little maple leaves on either side of the turkey and we're going to make kind of an oblong pillow for fall. I always have a lot of people ask me, I made a quilt, well I made a table runner last year for Quilt Market, and I used some of the ornaments from one of Lori Holt's patterns, and then I pulled in some other squares with stars. And I had a lot of people ask me, well, I didn't have a pattern for it. I just took different pieces from different things that I already owned or free things, and I kind of made it my own. And so I always have a lot of people ask me how I do that. And so in this tutorial, I'm going to try to explain how I take pieces from one thing and kind of marry it to another thing. So this turkey is a 12-inch block, and I want to also make mention that Lori Holt has a vintage Christmas along with a ton of other books that I have down here, but she's got 6-inch and 12-inch blocks, plenty of them. There's oodles and oodles and oodles. This one has so many cute holiday blocks, and so you can take exactly what we're going to do here in this video and you can apply it to any block pattern that you already own or free ones that you can find online. If you have this book, it is great. So there's Santas and there's snowmen and there's all kinds of stuff. There's the ice skates. Yes, so there's tons. So you can take any one of those, make a 12-inch block, then make a couple of other small blocks, put it in there, and make holiday pillows for Christmas as well. So I just wanted to make sure that I reminded myself for you to check that out because it's a really great way to make things all your own. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take the turkey and I'm gonna arrange the camera differently and I'm gonna show you what we're going to do to turn this into one piece, and then we're going to quilt it. I'm not going to use the long arm. I'm going to use the regular sewing machine because most people do not have a long arm, and if you do, you probably don't have time to quilt your own things, much like me, or you don't want to pay someone to quilt it. So we're going to quilt this one at home, and so you're going to be able to follow from start to finish how to do this. And so let's get started. It's going to be tons of fun. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna figure out how to turn these 3 blocks into one pillow. So this is a 12 by 12 block, and these two, I think they're 5 inches. I don't even really remember, but it's not really relevant. So what I like to do is just set it out on the table and figure out how I want the placement to go, and then I just cut different pieces to fill in the spaces.
So I don't really worry about a lot of math. I hate math. So at any chance I can get to not use math, I am all about it. So I made all of this with a charm pack. Even though these are long pieces, I pieced them together. I just cut my charm pack in half and I pieced it together because there are no quilt police in my room, and I didn't want to cut large pieces, so this is what I'm doing. So I'm gonna lay these, because there's light over here, I'm gonna push it all the way over on that side, and then I'm gonna put a piece over here. And so I'm gonna put this piece right here. So this is just 2.5 inch. So it's a charm pack cut in half. So that's what these two pieces are. And then I cut another charm pack in half. I sewed it together, and now I have this piece. I'm gonna put that in the middle. And then what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put, once we get these sewn together, I'm probably gonna put a little piece on the top and then another piece on the side, or another 2 pieces on the side, because once I get done quilting it, I wanna be able to trim it straight, and I don't want the edge of my pillow to be the edge of the turkey nose here. So I wanna put some fabric on that side of it so that I've got a little bit of wiggle room after I get done quilting it. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna sew these pieces onto our maple leaves. Then we're gonna sew that piece in the middle. And then once we get that done, we're gonna sew this on the top and then those on the side. And then I think that should work. I bought a pillow that is 12 by 20. So it should be perfect. And I like to do, when I do my pillows, I like to make my pattern or my quilt part, like to make it just a tiny bit smaller than the actual pillow so that it's nice and full. Okay, so let's pull the sewing machine out and sew these pieces together. Oh, and I do also want to mention that I'm using the Riley Blake B cross stitch fabric that Lori Holt sent me. This is a new product and they sent this to me to try out, and so I love it, and I thought my turkey would love it too, so we're using that here. And so this is the charm pack is what I've used for this entire project. I've just been cutting it up, and so that's what I've used for the background. The rest of these fabrics are all just from my stash. They are all Riley Blake fabrics. Some of them are Lori Holt, and some of them are some other ones that I've been working on from a different project like a year ago that I started. But I just pulled everything from my stash, and that's what I'm encouraging you throughout our block parties, is to pull things from what you have and not go out and buy a bunch of stuff, and to learn to use what you have. So that's what we're doing here. So let's sew. Okay, so we're gonna put this block down and sew that piece we just talked about onto the side of it. And then we're going to sew on this side on that one. Okay, now we're going to take this piece and we're going to put it right in the middle, and we're going to sew it. You can start on that side, doesn't really matter. You can make your stitch lines, make your seams match if you want to right there. Take it off and audition it. Okay, so when I'm auditioning them, I like to just kind of think it through a little bit. So I have this here, and I know that it's not big enough, and once I sew this together, it's going to be even smaller. And so because I'm going to put the border down on the bottom, I'm going to put this maple leaf down below, and then I'm going to push this one down. I'm going to put just a little piece right here so that there's a space up here a little bit. So what we're going to do is I cut another piece. These are just 2-inch pieces off of one of the 5-inch squares. Sew those together, and then we're going to put that up there. So let's sew these two together. Okay, that's going to be perfect. So now let's sew that on there. I think we'll take this seam and we'll line it up with that seam. Okay, and so that is how I do my blocks. I've done absolutely no math, and I just put it how I want it, and I kind of audition it, and so I've taken those pieces, and so now I'm gonna go trim this off and trim this off. Okay, so now I have them trimmed, and this is just a little bit bigger than my turkey block, and that's okay. I'm gonna trim that off. So now we're just gonna take these two blocks, and we're gonna sew them together. I'm gonna line it up down on the bottom. Put just one pin just to keep it from moving so that it stays lined up on the bottom. Oh, look how cute. All right, let's press. Okay, that's how I want it. Okay, so now we're gonna take this bottom little border part and we're gonna put it on there. I'm probably not gonna leave the whole thing on there. I'm probably gonna trim it off. But like I said before, once we get done with the quilting, then we can trim it how we want it. Because sometimes with quilting, it shifts just a little bit. Okay, so now we're gonna put this border over here on this side. So we're gonna sew these two pieces together. Okay, so our turkey has now been married to our maple leaves, and so we have the extra here. I'm going to go trim off, and I'm going to trim off this little bit of extra here, and then we're going to quilt him. So let's go do that. Okay, Turkey Tom is all done. So what I've done next is I am going to put some muslin on the back. When Joann Fabrics was still in business, I bought bolts and bolts of this before they closed, and they were just a couple of dollars a yard. So what we're going to do is we're going to put them like that. I'm going to go find a piece of scrap batting to put in the middle of it, and then we're going to quilt it right here on the Juki. We're just going to do a little crosshatch. So I'm going to go get myself a piece of batting because I forgot, and then we'll start quilting. Okay, so I have a lot of batting left over from being a long arm quilter. So I've got some Hobbs 80-20 batting that I've just pulled out here. We're gonna lay our muslin on the back, and the reason why we're using muslin is because this is gonna be the inside of the pillow that we're not gonna see. So the turkey bird's gonna be here, and then this is gonna be the muslin inside, and then we're gonna put another piece on the back as the back part of the pillow. So this fabric doesn't matter at all. Use whatever scraps you have for your backing piece. And so I want to make sure that I don't, because my batting is a little bit bigger than my backing, I wanna make sure that I give myself enough room to quilt. So now I have enough room down here, and over here, and over here. So you can use some spray batting. There's a 505 spray if you'd like to keep your layers together while you're sewing. Or you can use pins, safety pins, or you can do nothing. I'm probably gonna opt for nothing because it's a pretty small project. But if this is your first time and you'd feel more comfortable using a little spray and you have it, go ahead and do that. But if you don't have it, you don't need to rush out and buy it. Okay, so the two ways that I quilt at home on my home sewing machine, I would either use the, let's see, this is a Clover point-to-point turner. And it also does the creases. So the ends, like if you're flipping something inside out, you can use this end, and this is the end that you can use to make your lines. So I can link that down below. Or painter's tape. You can take your painter's tape. So if you're going to do your lines, you can decide how far apart you want your lines to be. Let's get a ruler. So you can decide how you want your lines to go. If you want to put them at a 45-degree angle, you line your 45-degree up on the corner and go over. 45-degree over here and go over. So you can start one place and do that way, and then you can, let's do that. Let's start here. So I'll show you this guy. So if you start at the corner and you line your 45-degree up right there, and you push on it like that, And so it makes a line that you can see, just makes a crease in the fabric. And then you can line it up, like say if you wanted to do a 2-inch, then you'll line it up with 2 inches. And go like that. These are not really my favorite way of doing it because now that I've gotten older, I have a hard time seeing. And so when I get to going and then I miss where the line is, and then I sometimes mess up. So you can use a marking tool if you want to make the actual lines with a pen. These go away with water. There's also a friction pen that goes away with heat. I have heard that, see, look, my line's already messed up. So I have heard when you use friction pens, sometimes if you live in a cold climate, that when it gets cold again, that the lines come back. I've never experienced that myself, but I've heard it happens, so I don't know. So this is an option if you want to do that, or you can use masking tape. Masking tape was always my favorite. So I could make the line here and rip the tape, sew that one. Sometimes I'll do 2. But I don't want to forget, so when you start sewing on one side of the line. If you put more than one piece, just make sure you always sew on that side of the line. So let's see where 2 inches is. And let's see where 2 inches is down here. Okay, whoops. And so you can reuse the tape. So we're gonna sew on this side of the line and then on this side of the line, and then when we get those 2 done, we're gonna move them and advance them, and we'll probably use these same 2 pieces of tape the whole time. So you can put a walking foot down if you want to. Sometimes they do help keep your all of your layers together. Since this is a very small project, I'm not gonna do it, but I think I'm gonna go get my tray, the little arm thing, the extension table, I do believe is what it's called, but I'm gonna get that. So this will make it a little bit easier with the extension table so that you have a flat surface to work with. So I'm using a 9014 needle and Aurifil thread. I think the color I'm using is 2026. It's just like a chalk color, I think is that one. So I usually turn my stitch length to like 3.5 or 4 if I'm doing like quilting like this. Okay, we got that stitch down. Now we're gonna stitch on the right side of this line. Don't stitch over your tape. I'll flip it over to the back side, make sure I haven't done anything silly, which looks fine. So now we're gonna take our ruler. We're gonna get 2 more inches. There's that and that. We're gonna put we're gonna just put the tape there. And so since these are already kind of going along with the lines that I made previously, so what you can do is you can mark, once you get to the end, you can mark 2 inches with your pen right here. And then you can come down here and mark 2 inches. And then you can put your tape down so you don't have to draw the whole line. You can just eyeball where your tape is going. All right, let's keep going. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing. Mark 2 inches. Mark 2 inches. You can do it again. My tape's stuck. The tape, the excess tape stuck to the table down here and it caused it to pull a little bit. Crisis averted. Alright, so that piece of tape is done, and so is this one. Now we're gonna flip him around. We'll check the back side. Looks good. However, since this is going on the inside of a pillow, if you did have a pucker back there, no one would ever know. So we're gonna mark our 2 inches. All right, we're gonna put our tape back down. Okay, so we have all of our rows going that way. Now we need to go this way. So we'll get our ruler back out. We'll do our first one and mark the 45-degree angle. And then we'll go 2 inches over from that line, 2 inches over from this line. In theory, it should line up with the lines that you have marked previously. We're going to use our same piece of tape. Usually the tape will last for an entire project. Oh, my tape stuck again. Oh, goodness. One thing I will mention when you are doing crosshatch is that when you're driving over with the seam this way, if you've already done one this way, sometimes you can get this little tiny pucker, if you will, just because this part has already been sewn and then you're kind of going this way. So make sure you pay attention not to, if it comes to that point, I'll show you. If it comes to that point, you just want to kind of pull it backwards a little bit, and then it'll keep it from pushing too much onto that seam that's already there. All right, now we're gonna flip it the other way, or rotate it rather. So like I mentioned before, if you're feeling like you're gonna get a pucker, just kind of take your hand and pull it right here, and then as you drive over that other seam, it'll pull it back just enough to not make that little pucker. We're almost there! Okay, you can throw our tape away. You can flip it over and check out our work. And so the lines that I drew previously will go away with water. So if you just want to take your little spray mister and get it wet, or if you used a friction pen, you'll use an iron to get rid of it. And so now look how cute it is. I'm so excited. Okay, so we have our quilting done, and now it's time to trim it. And so I purchased this 12 by 20 pillow form. It currently looks like a pancake, but apparently it turns into a very nice pillow after it's opened. So if you remember when we did the piecing, I made my bottom one a little bit longer so that I could trim it the way that I wanted it. And so I'm gonna trim it just below my stitch, my crosshatch stitch right here. And I am using my ruler that I designed, the scant trimmer. I designed these to trim after your quilting is finished because I like to use a scant 1/4 of an inch around my quilt perimeter for my binding. So that's what I'm doing. I have videos if you'd like to see my technique for binding here on the channel. All right, so now our little turkey has been trimmed. And what we need to do for the backing is we're gonna take a piece of fabric and I'm not gonna do a zipper back for this one. This is just a super simple little fun project. If you wanna do a zipper next time, comment below and let me know you want to know how to learn how to do the zipper pillow. We'll do that on the next one. For this one, we're just going to do a simple envelope pillow. So this is a different pillow that I have made. It has the envelope back on it, and so it just has this spot where you just slip the pillow in one side and then it just tucks back, and there's the way that it sits. This one's probably stuffed a little bit full, so the envelope tends to pull a little bit farther. Also, I didn't give it enough space right here when I made it. So I'm just showing you this because if you don't, it's not the end of the world. The pillow, in theory, is only going to be out for turkey season, and you can learn and get better for the next one. So what we're going to do is we're going to use this fabric for the back because I have this in my stash. Or we're going to use this fabric. What do you think? I think we're going to use this for the binding. So this is Lori Holt fabric that I have from a different project. I don't know. I think I have more of this one. I'll just go with this one. And then we're going to use this for the binding. Oh my gosh, it's going to be so cute. I like to put my quilt top on top and audition my binding like so. I think that'll look really cute, and then that'll be on the back of it. So you can do an envelope pillow a couple of different ways. So this fabric, I just folded it over and made a seam, and this is a raw edge, and I really don't care. So, but I do know that sometimes when I make them, if they're going to be in a magazine or in a book or whatever, I might do the double up. And what that means is, so you're going to have a piece of fabric. I'm going to show you this way since it's already folded. So this fabric is folded. So here's the fold, opens like that, and there's the fold. And so it's basically doubled. So there's the fabric on that side, and then this, I'm gonna use this piece of yardage to show you without cutting it, so bear with me. So then this piece the other side is going to be folded on this side and overlap like that. So you'll be able to put your pillow through there, and then you'll be able to see this fabric on it. It won't have the raw side of the, you know, the bad side. It won't look like that in the middle. It'll look good and pretty on both sides, and you'll overlap it by about 4 or 5 inches. So that's how I do mine. So if you want to, it just depends on how much fabric you have. If you want to put a different fabric in here, have your fold if you don't have enough. So I'm just kind of going over the different ways. So I don't think I'm going to use all of this fabric because I want to use this fabric for something else that I have. I'm making a little corn table runner also, like, and so I think I want to keep some of this. So I'm not going to double mine up. But if you have tons of fabric on the one that you're picking and you want to, then that's how you're going to do it. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. My fabric is doubled, folded in half. I'm going to lay my turkey on the top. I'm going to give myself just a little bit of extra. And then I'm going to cut it over here with about the same amount extra. Notice I am not measuring. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this right on the fold. And I'm going to take these 2 pieces. You're going to mark it at 1 inch here, and then you're going to mark it over here at 1 inch. And then you're going to fold it over. And you can just finger press it until you get to the iron. And then you're going to fold it over again. So, and then I'm going to make a stitch on it so that it looks pretty from the outside. And we're going to leave it raw on the inside like that. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to fold it over 1 inch and then fold it over again. And we're going to press it. And then we're going to go put a stitch on it. So I have both sides folded, and now we are going to put a stitch in it. I'm going to just line up my foot with the end of this. There's your stitch. Sometimes I like to do another one right next to it. I just line up my foot right on top of the stitch line. I just kind of like the way that 2 of them look. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to fold our turkey in half and mark the half point. And then what we want is we want a 5-inch overhang. 1, 2, 3, we're going to go 6 inches. So I'm going to have my first piece of fabric come right here. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The other piece start over here. That way the distance between this seam and this seam is around 5 or 6 inches. That's what I like to do for my pillows. And then we're going to take the pins and pin them. And then we're going to turn it around and we're going to stitch it on this side so you can see. So we're going to stitch right on the edge though. We do not have to come in 1/4 inch. Stitch just right on the edge. Make sure you get all the layers, but stitch right on the edge. And then we're going to trim it off and put binding on it. Okay, we're going to put it under the machine and we're going to stitch just right on the edge. Make sure you catch all the layers, but stitch as close to the edge as you can. flip it over and take out your pins and check to make sure that it looks how you want it to look. Okay, so we're going to trim it. One thing I wanted to mention is if you want to go back over and reinforce the seams that are going over your where the two pieces intersect, just to give it a little bit more reinforcement, since you're going to be, the reason why I'm saying that's because you're going to be opening it and stuffing that pillow in there, and you're going to be kind of pulling on it. So it's a good idea to reinforce this area where it touches and this area right here where they're intersecting. So after I get it trimmed, I'll go through and do that. Okay, so the next step, which is also our last step, is the binding. So you can either attach it to the front and then fold it over and do hand binding if you want, or you can attach it to the back and then fold it over and do machine binding from the front. That's usually how I do my binding. So I'm going to cut 2.5-inch strips. So I really just overcut. You're probably going to need, you're just going to need 2 strips. There will be plenty. You don't need to cut this 3rd strip. My mistake. It will go in my scrap bucket. So you're going to want to take your 2 pieces. This is my ruler that I have designed for binding. Draw the line and then stitch on the line. And you can trim it off. You fold them over and you'll want to press the 2 of them. And then you'll want to press them in half again. And then press that so you've got your strips. Okay, so when I do my machine binding, the stitch that I made when I was attaching the front to the back, I'm going to put my raw edge of the binding up against that stitch, and that's going to leave this little scant 1/4 inch piece hanging out, and I do that on purpose. I don't ever put my quilt binding on the very edge of my quilt. A lot of other quilters do. It's just not for me. So this is the technique that I use, and you can check out some of my other videos and my rulers if you'd like to check out how I do my binding. We're just going to kind of do a quick one here, but I go into much more detail on my binding in some of the separate videos, and I have plans for a new one coming soon. So we're going to leave just a little bit of extra, and then we're going to start stitching. When I get to the corner, I'm going to take my binding boss, and the point right here, that is a 1/4 inch. I'm going to line that up with the inside part of my stitch, and that's where I'm going to stop sewing so I can pivot. Then I'm going to pivot and sew into the corner. And that's what's going to make your miter. Now you're going to take this piece and you're going to flip it up and finger press it. And then this piece is going to line back up with the edge. If you have it line up all the way right here, it's just going to make your corners a little bit more rounded. And if you have it line all the way up to the edge of your scant, it'll be a little bit more pointy. So I'm to my corner again. I'm going to take my binding boss, set it right there in the corner, and then mark that 1/4 inch. Then I know where to stop sewing. And then pivot over to the corner. Okay, so now we have our 2 ends and we're ready to join them together. And so with my binding boss, you simply give yourself, that's about 10 inches or so. So we want to just take this one and fold it in half, pull it about halfway, pull it taut and finger press it. Then do the same thing with this one. Pull it and finger press it right at the edge so that they're both, when they're taut, they're both just about touching. Then you're going to take your binding boss, lay it right on top and line your fold with the edge and make a line. Fold with the edge here, make another line. And we're going to trim it off, trim them. Okay, so now we're going to take our top piece and we're going to put it good side up and put it under. Okay, so we're going to take this second half and we're going to fold it open so that we can take our little binding boss and line up this line right here and go down that way. That's going to be your stitch line. So now you can just fold this so that you've got room to work. Leave that just how it was. And then this one is going to go right on top of it. And then we're going to stitch right on the line. And then when you pull it back where it's supposed to go, it lines up perfectly. So then you want to take that and trim off the excess. I just use scissors, trim it off, and then I finger press it open. If you did it and it's not quite tight enough, if you take it to the iron right now and press it, it'll make it perfect. So now we're going to take ourselves right back here and stitch it closed. And then it's a good idea to go back and check to make sure that you've gotten all of your pieces sewn, and that's how you want it to look. And now it looks fine, so now we can work on the front part. So actually we're going to press it, and I'm going to show you how I press. So when I do my binding, I press it down first, and then I go back through and press it down to get to this corner. I just hold it there for a second. It makes a nice pretty miter, and then you can finish folding it over. So now it's ready to go over. A little tip, if you, so when you're doing my binding technique, when you're pushing the binding back over, this piece of binding, you want to line it up with the stitch that you just made. And that's going to fill it up and it's going to be perfect. And then when you do your stitch, if you stitch just inside, it will land at the same place on the back side. So it'll look a little bit more uniform. One of the reasons why I do hand binding mostly is because I just don't like the way that machine binding looks if it's not perfect. I'm not a perfectionist in many ways, but with the binding I really like it to be perfect. So, or as close to perfect as possible with that stitch. And I like the hidden hand binding. So what you can do to help out with that is you can put a little bit of Elmer's glue right on the inside of your binding strip. And then when you fold it over, you can put it where you want it, get it to line up with your stitch, And then if you put just a little bit of the hot iron on there, it will set that glue just long enough for you to stitch it on, and it should stay relatively straight on both sides then. So now let's do that. When we do the miter, I'll show you when you push this side in like that, then you can push that side over and it'll make your miter like that. Sometimes you can push it all the way down and then put a needle right here to get yourself to fold it over the way that you want it. And you can even use the needle when you're finished to get it to stay that way for a second. But that is a good way to get your mitered corner to look good, so that it's nice and pointy. Turkey Tom! Okay, so now it's time to stuff our Turkey Tom. So since we did the insert, or since we did the envelope, you want to take this part, I want to pull the envelope from the inside first. Okay, then you want to pull the envelope that's on the inside and tuck it forward, and then give your little turkey a fluff. One thing I also do when I buy pre-formed pillows, if they're not stuffed to my liking, I will just get some polyfill and push it into each corner to kind of fluff up the corners a little bit.
Oh my goodness, y'all, we made a Turkey Tom pillow. It is so cute. So I hope that you had fun watching this video tutorial, and I also hope that you will join our new Facebook group called The Block of Friends. Join my group, come be my friend, make some pillows with me, and learn how to take all kinds of free items that you can find online, free patterns, free stuff, and turn them into projects that are very unique to you. Make them all your own. So subscribe and let me know what you think.